Case in point, yesterday, as part of his White House ballroom project, he sent out a backhoe to rip off a chunk of the East Wing. That is it. We are not giving him the security deposit back. Yvonne, can we see that picture again? That is so deeply unsettling. It's like being a kid and seeing your teacher at the grocery store for sale.
On Sunday, he sat up in bed and posted, the NFL has to get rid of that ridiculous-looking new kickoff rule. How can they make such a big and sweeping change so easily and quickly? It's at least as dangerous as the normal kickoff and looks like hell. Sissy football is bad for America and bad for the NFL.
It all began with a cell phone, a hot microphone, and one of the most recognizable political figures in the world following along from home. During the Oscars, Jimmy Kimmel casually pulled out his phone, read a furious message from Donald Trump word for word, and then delivered the remark that instantly took over social media. "Isn't it past your jail time?" The crowd exploded with laughter. Cameras swept across the room, capturing celebrities trying not to lose control. And in a matter of seconds, Hollywood had transformed Trump's hunger for attention into one of the most talked about moments of the night.
We're just, as I said, we're just 9 months into Trump's turn, and he's going Hulk smash on the White House. Last time, it took him at least 4 years to bring a demo crew to the Capitol. This is happening after Trump specifically promised his ballroom construction wouldn't touch the existing White House. Here he is talking about it this summer.
It won't interfere with the current building. It'll be near it, but not touching it, and pays total respect to the existing building, which I'm the biggest fan of. It's my favorite place. I love it.
So that was a lie.
Now, instead of the Chinese government harvesting our thoughts, interests, and personal information, Trump's buddy will have them instead. At least it's somebody we can trust, though, right?
March 10, 2024. The setting was the Dolby Theater during the 96th Academy Awards, a night usually reserved for honoring the biggest names in film. Instead, it unexpectedly became the stage for one of the sharpest public jabs aimed at the 47th President of the United States. Kimmel was in the middle of his opening monologue when news reached him that Trump, watching from the White House residence, had posted a scathing message on Truth Social, calling him the worst Oscars host in history. According to reports, producers preferred that Kimmel ignore it and move on. What happened next changed the entire conversation.
What I said was this.
Well, I just got a review, and has there ever been a worse host than Jimmy Kimmel at the Oscars? His opening was that of a less than average person trying too hard to be something which he is not and never can be. Get rid of Kimmel and perhaps replace him with another washed up but cheap ABC talent, George Slopanopoulos. He would make everybody on stage look bigger, stronger, and more glamorous. Blah, blah, blah. Make America great again. Okay, now, see if you can guess which former president just posted that on Tuesday. Anyone? No? Well, thank you, President Trump. Thank you for watching. I'm surprised you're still... Isn't it past your jail time?
As the moment unfolded, reaction shots captured stars across the audience, struggling to contain their laughter. From Emma Stone to Bradley Cooper, the room looked like it was witnessing something unforgettable in real time. ABC's live broadcast preserved every second. Major media outlets rushed to publish stories before the ceremony had even concluded. By sunrise the next morning, headlines were everywhere. While the White House attempted to project an image of complete indifference, the internet had already chosen its narrative. A president watched the Oscars and ended up becoming part of the show. The story was no longer about an insult. It was about an unexpected role reversal.
Time magazine dropped a new issue to commemorate the deal. Let's take a look at his heroic cover shot. Okay. Ooh. Worst Georgia O'Keeffe ever. You know what?
We've had a hell of a couple of weeks, but I did get some exciting news this weekend. According to a new poll from YouGov, which is a serious polling site, or they were before this, I am more popular than the President of the United States.
For years, Trump built his public image around commanding attention whenever he entered the conversation. Kimmel flipped that dynamic with a single joke. Suddenly, Trump was no longer directing the spotlight. He had become the punchline, standing underneath it. And the situation escalated further the following night. Back on his late-night program, Kimmel proudly displayed Trump's Truth Social post as though it were a prized achievement. Holding up his phone like a golden statue, he joked, "I've got my Oscar now. It's called a Trump post." The audience roared. What had started as another celebrity political feud evolved into a lesson in how public figures can be disarmed using humor rather than outrage.
Considering the fact that I'm not a convicted felon friend of Jeffrey Epstein, and I've never paid off a porn star or sent a team of masked goons into a park to pull an old lady away from her grandchildren, I feel like my rating should be higher, maybe, than... At this point, finding a toenail in your salad has a 7-point lead over Donald Trump. And I hope he doesn't see this. I hate to, I don't like to upset him, but I think he might be upset because the White House put out a statement this afternoon. This is a real statement. Over 77 million Americans showed up on Election Day to cast their ballots for President Donald J. Trump, who is delivering on his overwhelming mandate to put America first. Jimmy Kimmel prays every night to garner a fraction of that support to keep his show on air after ratings dropped 64% last week. Sad. I like sad with an exclamation point.
Many late-night hosts had mocked Trump over the years, but Kimmel accomplished something different. He responded instantly on one of the largest entertainment broadcasts on Earth, using Trump's own words as the setup. That was more than a roast. It was a public demonstration. The entire exchange showed how quickly power can shift when comedy controls the narrative. If you enjoy seeing influential figures challenged under the brightest lights, moments like this explain why late-night television still attracts so much attention. But the story did not end there. More than a year later, another monologue would prove the pattern was still alive.
At this point, should we even believe that this is going to end up being a ballroom? It could just as easily end up being a combination Pizza Hut Taco Bell. Now, someone in his administration is clearly smart enough to know how bad this looks because the Treasury Department is right next door facing the demolition, and Treasury has now told their employees not to share any photos of the construction. Not generally something you instruct when you're proud of what's going on. Hey guys, remember, no photos at my wedding, and it's not because I'm marrying a body pillow of Mariah Carey.
In October 2025, Kimmel opened a new segment by displaying yet another angry Truth Social post. This time, the issue involved a Time magazine cover that Trump reportedly disliked. Kimmel pretended to be concerned as he explained the situation. Apparently, the problem was the photograph. The lighting, according to the joke, had not been kind enough. Kimmel then imagined the absurdity of a world leader losing sleep over a magazine picture. The audience laughed immediately. But beneath the humor was a pointed observation. The joke painted a picture of someone so focused on image that even a photograph could become a source of frustration. It was satire built around the idea that self-perception can sometimes become its own worst enemy.
You know what else is sad? That the President of the United States has a lower approval rating than Diddy and diarrhea. That's what's sad. If he's looking, I know he cares very deeply about this sort of thing. If he's looking to improve his approval numbers, I have an idea. Release the Epstein files. Yeah.
Did you ever think the President of the United States would be celebrating your unemployment?
I mean, that son of a bitch, is really unbelievable.
Mr. Son of a bitch.
I mean,
Mr. Son of a bitch.
His royal Yes, yeah, no, I never imagined that we'd ever have a president like this, and I hope we don't ever have another president like this again. I mean, I never even imagined there would ever be a situation in which the president of our country was celebrating hundreds of Americans losing their jobs. There's somebody who took pleasure in that. That, to me, is the absolute opposite of what a leader of this country is supposed to be.
Coverage followed quickly. Networks and entertainment publications highlighted the segment, while fans circulated clips across social media for days afterward. That is ultimately Kimmel's greatest strength. He rarely relies on anger. Instead, he specializes in precise, calculated humor that turns self-importance into comedy. But while Kimmel was making headlines, another late-night giant had already written his own chapter in this story. The scene shifts to The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. It is May 1st, 2017. Papers cover the desk. The audience is energized. Trump has just criticized CBS during an interview, and Colbert decides he has a response ready. What followed became one of the most controversial and memorable monologues ever delivered on late-night television.
Yesterday, at the White House, Trump talked about his wrecking ballroom. And the one thing I don't think we make enough fun of is how his brain is filled with cotton candy fantasies of lavish princely soirees.
So you'll have drinks, cocktails, everything on this floor, and then they'll say, welcome to dinner. You walk into the ballroom, Mr. Senators, and you're gonna see a ballroom the likes of which I don't think it'll be topped.
There'll be drinks, cocktails, like this, drinks and cocktails.
A vast majority say they want to see the Epstein files. 77% of Americans want the Epstein files released, but 100% of our American president does not want them released. Trump's treating these Epstein files like the grumpy old neighbor on Halloween. He turns off all the lights and just hopes the trick-or-treaters will assume there's nobody home. He's like, do you people not understand what a wonderful secret means?
Colbert unleashed a line that immediately sent shockwaves across television and social media. The audience erupted. Viewers at home reacted with equal disbelief. Thousands of complaints flooded regulators in the days that followed. The controversy became a national conversation. Yet after reviews and investigations were completed, no punishment arrived. There were no suspensions, no fines, no cancellation. The joke survived. In fact, the attention only fueled greater interest in the show. What many believed could become Colbert's biggest mistake instead became one of the defining moments of his career. The line that sparked outrage also cemented his reputation as a comedian willing to take risks.
Couldn't have this wonderful news for my dear friend Jimmy and his amazing staff. They continue their show. That's right. You know, I'm so happy for them. Plus, now that Jimmy's not being canceled, I get to enjoy this again. Yeah. I was just, once more, I am the only martyr in late nights. Wait, unless, CBS, you want to announce anything?
When I heard it, I was in the midst of, building a great, for 150 years, they've wanted a ballroom at the White House, right? They don't have a ballroom. They have to use tents on the lawn for President Xi when he comes over. If it rains, it's a wipeout. And so I was with the architects that would design. It's going to be incredible.
Like that. And why are we building a $200 million ballroom in the White? Is it possible that he's doing it intentionally so we could be bad about that instead of the Epstein list? By the time he's out of office.
Years later, Colbert found another opportunity. In December 2023, Trump stated during an interview that he would be a dictator, but only on the first day. The comment immediately generated headlines and debate. The following evening, Colbert looked directly into the camera and responded with a comparison that brought down the house. He joked that saying you would be a dictator for only one day was like promising to commit a serious crime only once. The audience exploded with laughter because the humor was rooted in the logic of the statement itself. That has always been Colbert's specialty. He finds a claim, follows it to its natural conclusion, and lets the absurdity reveal itself.
So Disney put Kimmel back on because you, the American people, were upset, okay? But not just people, also Ted Cruz. It's true. Cruz was one of the conservatives who were outraged by the administration's attack on free speech.
He threatens explicitly, we're going to cancel ABC's license. We're going to take him off the air so ABC cannot broadcast anymore. He threatens it. He says, we can do this the easy way, or we can do this the hard way.
Yeah.
And I got to say, that's right out of Goodfellas. That's right out of a mafioso coming into a bar going, nice bar you have here. It'd be a shame if something happened to it.
Wow, I gotta say, I am shocked that I agree with Ted Cruz on something.
Today, Caitlin Collins from CNN asked Trump whether he plans to pardon Epstein's right-hand woman, Ghislaine Maxwell, and whereas he's usually, very quick to weigh in bigly on this type of thing, for this one, suddenly even-tempered and even deferential.
The Supreme Court is back in session. Yeah. They rejected today an appeal by Ghislaine Maxwell to overturn her conviction. That means her only chance at getting out of prison is a pardon from you. Is that something you're open to?
Who are we talking about?
Ghislaine Maxwell.
I haven't heard the name in so long. I can say this, that I'd have to take a look at it. I'll look at it. I have a lot of people who have asked me for pardons. I call him Puff Daddy has asked me for a pardon.
She was convicted of child sex trafficking.
Yeah, I'm going to have to take a look at it. I have to ask DOJ.
Oh, yeah. Ask DOJ and get back to us, please. We'd love to.
Then came June 3rd, 2024, a moment that felt almost symbolic. Following Trump's guilty verdict in a hush money case, Colbert turned toward his audience and encouraged a chant that instantly echoed through the studio. Lock him up. Lock him up. The phrase carried a layer of irony impossible to miss. It mirrored the chants that had become famous during Trump's own political rallies years earlier. Now, the same slogan was being redirected back toward its source. The crowd joined in enthusiastically, creating a television moment that spread across the world within hours.
But I'm even more shocked that he somehow got Robert De Niro to come on the podcast. That was beautiful. See, I'm taking off the air. See, I'm the FCC. ABC was being flooded with complaints about taking Jimmy off the air, but not all those complaints went to the right place because down under, the Australian Broadcasting Company, which also goes by the initials ABC, was being barraged by misdirected complaints about the Kimmel suspension. Come on, folks. Leave him alone. Don't attack Australian ABC. I mean, they never canceled their popular late-night host.
The clip quickly became a global trend. Everywhere, people shared it, they attached a similar message. Colbert had flipped the script. That ability is what connects him with Kimmel. Both comedians use Trump's own language against him, but they do it differently. Kimmel takes the posts and reads them back to the public. Colbert takes the slogans and transforms them into theater. One relies on direct repetition. The other creates dramatic reversals. Together, they have achieved something that political commentators and countless analysts often struggle to accomplish. They hold up a mirror and leave it there long enough for everyone to notice what is reflected back.
Now, there's a lot going on there. It's like one of those optical illusions where you can't tell if it's an old woman or a young ball sack. You gotta move, what's that?
He calls him Puff Daddy. That's relevant. The notorious P.I.G. is busy with all manner of distractions right now. He rallied the troops in Norfolk over the weekend at an event to commemorate the 250th anniversary of the Navy. He treated the crowd to his signature dance and to his still inexplicable theme song. I mean, come on, if you're gonna play the village people, how do you not go within the Navy on that day? It's not...
Trump has often dismissed both hosts with labels like low-rated, failing, or disgusting. Yet the numbers frequently tell a different story. Whenever he publicly attacks Kimmel, interest in Kimmel's show tends to rise. Whenever Colbert delivers a monologue tied to a major headline, clips spread rapidly across social media. In a strange way, every insult becomes additional publicity. The irony is difficult to ignore. The more attention Trump directs toward them, the more visibility their content receives. Eventually, many politicians learn the same lesson. Competing with comedians on live television is rarely as easy as it seems.
It's been a tough PR week for the GOP. Last week, Politico published a young Republican group chat loaded with horrible messages like, "I love Hitler." Then, a Republican congressional staffer was seen on Zoom with a Nazi swastika American flag hanging on the wall behind him. But folks, that's all in the past. Until yesterday, we found out that a Trump nominee boasted of having a Nazi streak in group chats. All right, Yvonne, let's reset the counter. Days since last Republican Nazi thing. There you go.
Dancing Donald wasn't the only Trump on hand to fire the sailors up.
Hoo-yah, Navy! Hoo-yah, Navy! Hoo-yah, Navy!
Hoo-yah means help me in Slovenian. The president landed in a chopper to the tune of Danger Zone from Top Gun.
The reason certain jokes endure is because they become part of the public conversation. Kimmel's famous Oscars jab and Colbert's most controversial one-liners did not simply generate headlines. They became cultural references repeated long after the original broadcasts ended. Posts can be removed, statements can be edited, but a punchline that captures the public imagination tends to live much longer. That is why audiences continue debating these moments years later. Some believe the comedians went too far. Others argue they did not go far enough. Either way, the jokes remain impossible to ignore. Looking back, it is remarkable to remember that Kimmel originally built his reputation through celebrity games, pranks, and lighthearted entertainment, before evolving into one of Trump's most persistent television critics.
When Donald Trump gave a crowd in Indiana, Pennsylvania, yet another review of my performance at the Academy Awards.
Remember the Academy Awards? I said how he's the worst host in the history of the Academy Awards, and this stupid guy goes up, and just before the Best Picture of the Year, the show is almost over. They're waiting for the Best Picture of the Year. He gets up and he says, and his wife said, "Please don't do it. Please, darling, don't go out." His manager said, "Don't do it. I have to do it." He goes out and reads my truth to the entire audience right before the best prime time, the Best Picture. And it said basically, he is the worst host in the history. He reads the whole thing. And then I think he said something like, "Ha, ha, ha, he thinks he bothers me," or some crap like that. I said, he's one of the dumbest human beings ever. He should have listened to his wife. What a dope.
Duck Rabbit. Now, of course, hey, how's it going? Of course, the President of the United States is far too busy hammering out the details of a deal to end a generational conflict in the Middle East to worry about how he looks on some bi-weekly magazine, you would think. But, of course, he posted, "Time magazine wrote a relatively good story about me, but the picture may be the worst of all time." He's right. You gotta hand it that. It is. It is one of the worst.
Trump's greatest strength has always been his ability to attract attention wherever he goes. What makes Kimmel and Colbert so effective is their ability to redirect that attention in unexpected ways. They did not rely on secret documents or anonymous sources to challenge him. Instead, they used timing, delivery, and one of television's oldest techniques: tell the truth as you see it, then sharpen it with humor. That formula has allowed both men to turn some of Trump's biggest public moments into comedy's biggest talking points. Whether viewers prefer Kimmel's Oscars response or Colbert's famous chant, one thing is clear: the battle between political power and late-night comedy continues to produce some of television's most unforgettable moments.